All right, hello. Welcome to your restorative practice. Today we're going to work on some shoulder mobility, some shoulder flexibility. We'll work a little bit with the spine in terms of rotation. And then we'll end our practice with, I'll give you the option of ending your practice with a Shavasana that includes legs up the wall. Or if you don't have wall space readily available, I recommend grabbing a chair that you can drape the calves over. You could also use for wall space a closed door. That always works pretty well if there isn't any other space in your room. So we're going to start off in child's pose. So I have laid out a blanket on top of my mat. This is kind of nice because we'll be in child's pose for about 3 minutes. We're going to take a break as we'll come in and out of it. So if your knees are tender or you're on a hard surface, I recommend just patting the knees a little bit. And then you can start to either take your knees wide and let your big toes touch. You can also bring your thighs together. And so what I'd recommend, if knees are wide, I'd recommend extending the arms forward, resting the forehead down on a prop or the mat. If knees are together and thighs are touching, it might feel nice. This feels nice on my shoulders to tuck the chin, rest the forehead down on a hard surface, and then stretch the arms back towards the feet. Okay, so either way with the arms, start to settle into your first shape, your variation of child's pose. And we'll be here, like I said, for about 3 minutes. As you settle into this first shape, you might just take a moment to roll the forehead side to side. It's like you're giving the tissue above the eyebrows a little massage. And inviting the back of the neck and the shoulders to release and soften. And as you arrive here, starting to deepen the breath. And just taking note of how your body feels today in this shape. I find it so interesting that on some days it'll be the same shape and my body will react very differently just depending on, many different factors. Could be how I slept, could be when I last ate, could be some other circumstance, like if there's tightness in my body anywhere, where I'm holding my stress. So a shape like child's pose, which, the conventional wisdom says is restorative, and certainly is symptomatic of parasympathetic nervous system response. Some days it might not feel like that to you, and that's okay. So we allow for these nuances to be true in our bodies when we approach our yoga practice and make modifications to support our body where it is today. That's the invitation. Just take one more deep breath here in your first child's pose. And then we'll start to bring the hands underneath the shoulders and shift forward into tabletop. And then just take a moment to find a little bit of movement in the spine, cat and cow. If you want to, you could extend the legs back one leg at a time maybe, and just invite some blood flow back into the ankles and the knees. I like to tuck my toes under and press down through the ball mound of that foot and kind of rock back and forth. And then make sure you do it on both sides if you're doing it on one side. And then both knees back to the mat. We'll take a different variation of child's pose where we'll include thread the needle. So we're going to take this right arm up towards the ceiling, deep breath in, anti-rotation, and then threading the right arm all the way underneath the left armpit beyond the side of the mat. Settle the hips back towards child's pose. And you can either rest the forehead down on the mat or a prop, or you can turn the head so that you're looking at your right fingertips. And you might notice what you're choosing with the head and the gaze direction, how that affects the whole spine and the shoulder itself. The left arm, it can continue to reach forward towards the top of the mat. If you want, you could sweep that left arm up, snake the forearm around the low back, and you can nestle the fingertips into the inner right hip crease. If there's a lot of tightness and resistance in the shoulders, that might not work for you. And that's okay if it doesn't. It's just an option. It's definitely not a requirement. Really reaching across your mat with your right fingertips. So you're getting really long through the right arm. So as much as the shoulder head and the tricep on the mat as possible. It's like you're trying to create space in between the right shoulder blade and the spine, which we would call protraction. The shoulder blades moving away from the spine. Coming back to your deep belly breaths, nice and slow in and out through the nose. So get as heavy as you can in the shoulders. Relax your neck, your jaw. Relaxing your hips back towards your heels. And take one more breath here. If you had that left forearm snaked behind the low back, release it, palm underneath the shoulder. So you can free your right arm, and then again, you might rotate that right arm up towards the ceiling. Deep breath in. And replant the right palm, come forward to tabletop, extending the legs back behind you one at a time, tucking the toes under, pressing back through the ball mound of the foot, allowing blood flow and circulation back into the legs. Maybe a round or two of cat and cow as you're ready to replace both knees underneath the hips. And then we'll set up our second side. So you'll stay rooted through the right hand. Inhale, sweep that left arm out and up. So you're finding a little anti-rotation here. And then exhaling, you're going to sweep left arm all the way underneath the right armpit, across and beyond the side of the mat. Get as Get as far as you can with those left fingertips. Let your left palm face the ceiling. Choose a direction of the gaze. So you might be looking over at the left hand. You might also be tucking the chin and resting the forehead. It's really up to you. And then as you settle into the shape, you can keep that right arm stretching forward. Just get heavy in the shoulders and the head and the hips. Everything starts to sink into the mat. Come back to your deep, slow belly breaths. And then if you'd like to add on, you can lift that right arm up, bend the elbow. It's like the forearm's trying to snake around the low back. Those right fingertips might find their way into the left hip crease. And again, it's just an option to take that half bind. It's definitely not required. And just because you did it on the first side doesn't mean you have to do it on the second side. Getting the aim of this shape in terms of the shoulders, what we're doing with the shoulders, making space in between the shoulder blade on the back and the spine. That's that protraction, so making space in the upper back. So the shoulder blades can move freely without getting stuck anywhere. Take one more deep breath in. And then if you had your right forearm behind the low back, release that. Press down through your right palm. Take your time on the exit. As you free your left arm, you might rotate that left arm up towards the ceiling. Deep breath in. And then come back to tabletop. You can extend the legs back behind you one at a time. Once more, inviting some blood flow, circulation back into the legs. Okay, now we're going to come all the way down onto our bellies. We're going to work the opposite range of motion in the shoulder girdle. So whereas we were protracting with thread the needle, we'll retract with this next shape, which means the shoulder blade will move in towards the spine and will broaden across the chest. First, let's just lay down on the belly. You can prop yourself up here for a moment in a kind of like a Sphinx pose. We'll take the right elbow out to the right side, kind of like a goalpost shape, half goalpost shape. Left palm underneath the left shoulder, as in low cobra. And then you're going to rest the right cheek on the mat. Make sure you can see your left fingertips. Let your head and your neck be heavy here. Okay, so right elbow wide out to the side like a half goalpost. Left palm underneath the left shoulder like low cobra. You're resting your right cheek on the mat. You're heavy through the head and relaxed through the neck. Press down into your left hand. Roll your weight off to your right side. So I'm rolling all the way onto my right shoulder, my right hip. And then as I settle in here, there's a lot of different options with this left leg, which is your top leg. You can let it sweep back behind you and just kind of hang out in space. You can bend the knee and plant the foot behind you. You can leave the legs stacked, left leg on top of right leg. Okay, so you might try all three and see which one works best for you. And then eventually find something that you can be still in, find that stillness. Breathe into the sensations in your body. If the sensations are too intense in your body and you can't breathe deeply and fully, your body's giving you a signal that you've gone too far. So just back out a little bit. Maybe there's less weight on the right shoulder and right hip. Maybe you roll a little bit back towards the belly, back towards the chest. Once you've found your position and you're finding that heaviness through the body, finding that stillness through the body, return to your slow inhale and exhale through the nose. Take about 2 more breaths here. And then go slow with this. Start to unwind, come back onto the belly. And we're going to take a moment here and pause in between sides. So option to stack your hands underneath the forehead. Just resting fully on the belly, on the pelvis, extending the legs back behind you. And we'll take about 3 to 4 deep, slow breaths here in between sides. And then we'll just briefly prop ourselves up on our elbows. If the first round of that was confusing at all, I just recommend watching how I set this up, and then you can join me. As I take the left elbow out to the left side, again, it's like a goalpost shape or half goalpost shape. So my elbow is bent, my fingertips are pointing forward, my palm is facing down. That's my left hand. And then my right palm is like in low cobra underneath my right shoulder. I'm resting my left cheek, so I'm looking down at my right fingertips. I'm resting my left cheek. I'm looking down at my right fingertips. And I get heavy in my head here, relax through the neck. Once that is in place, then I press into my right palm and I roll all the way over, and all the way is relative to your body, onto my left shoulder and my left hip. And then again, you might do some exploration with that top right leg. It can sweep back behind you and kind of just hang there in space. It takes me several minutes to start to release enough through my spine that my right foot can touch the ground behind me. And some days it doesn't happen at all, and that's okay. You can also, again, bend the knee and plant the foot. And you can also stack the legs. So right leg can just simply stack on top of the left leg. So whatever you're choosing, make sure it's going to work for you. Make sure that, and when I say work for you, I mean you're able to breathe deep and slow through the nose. You're able to find this balance or marriage between sensation that is tolerable in terms of, can you relax a little bit into the discomfort without it causing sharp shooting pain. If you're really fidgety, if you're adding more tension to your body than you're able to really release and breathe into it, then you probably have gone too far. And maybe you need to just roll a little bit of weight back towards the belly and the chest. So as you continue to breathe slow and deep through the nose, you feel your body getting heavy. Can you feel the muscles ungripping? And that might take a while. There might be some resistance from the muscles. And that's okay because they're doing their job. They're trying to protect your joints. So don't force it beyond. Don't force your body to go beyond that resistance. When the muscle tissue is ready to release, it will on its own. You don't have to force it. So your job here in our restorative practice is to be patient, to listen to the signals of the body, and just to pay attention. Pay attention to what you feel and where you feel it. Let's take one more breath here. And then nice and slow, make your way back to your belly. Take your time on your exits. We'll pause again on the belly. You can stack the hands underneath the forehead. Rest the whole body, belly down. Legs extended back behind you. Slow, deep breaths in and out through the nose. We'll take about 4 to 5 breaths here. All right, so we're going to start to set up our Shavasana. And like I mentioned at the beginning of our practice, I was going to suggest elevating the legs in some way for Shavasana. So if you need to grab a chair or a stool into your space that you can use to drape your calves over, go ahead and do that. If you need to close a door to make space for your legs to extend up, great. Also, beds and couches work well for swinging the legs over. And if you want to, you can add any props such as like a blanket over the belly, a cloth over the eyes to block out any extra light. We'll have a nice 3-minute Shavasana, just kind of the sweet spot for a 30-minute class. And so as you're setting up, if you're using legs up the wall, maybe you get into fetal position with the sits bones touching the wall first. You just lay on your side and then roll onto your back and kick your legs up, whatever prop you're using, and then kind of adjust so the spine feels relatively even, sits bones feel relatively even, legs feel like they're the same height. And settling in here, adding any of those props, any blankets or anything you want to add. And now as you settle into this shape, maybe take your hands to your belly. You could also place one hand on the low rib cage and one hand on the belly. Shrug your shoulders down your back. Slightly tilt your chin in towards the chest. Let's take a deep breath in through the nose. And this time open your mouth, exhale the air out through the mouth. And do that twice more, inhaling through the nose. Open mouth, exhale. One more time, deep breath in. Deep breath out. Just feel yourself letting all of that go, letting it all rest. Settling into Shavasana. If you're still in Shavasana with me, please feel free to stay longer if you have the time. If you're ready to move on with your day, start to awaken through fingertips and toes. Maybe stretch the arms over the head, breathe into the length of the body. And take your time to roll off to your side, bending your knees, passing through fetal position. And then rising to an upright seat. Just briefly, we'll sit up and close our practice. Resting your hands face down on top of your thighs or your knees, shifting your shoulders back over the hips. Breathing in, grow tall through the top of the head. Breathing out, settling into your seat. And just continue breathing in and out through your nose here. And then stacking your hands flat against the heart, bowing the chin into the chest. Just taking a moment to honor your effort and your practice with reverence and gratitude. May you remember that you will always be okay. May you find a light that guides you and keeps you safe. May you have hope, help, and happiness along the way. Namaste, yogis. Thanks for joining me today. Hope you had a good practice. As always, let me know if you have any feedback, questions, or comments. You can always email me. Email address is just my name. It's tessa@tessatovar.com. And in the meantime, I hope you take care of yourselves and come back as soon as you can.